Ethan Cross was already running when the sirens exploded behind him. His shoes slapped against wet pavement as he cut through the alley, lungs burning, heart hammering like it was trying to escape his chest. The city didn't care. It never did. Neon lights flickered. Somewhere a train screamed. Behind the chain-link fence, kids laughed as they ran across a playground, their voices floating like they belonged to a different universe. "Hey, kid." Ethan didn't turn around. He clutched his side and staggered forward, stomach twisting with hunger so sharp it felt like claws. He hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Or maybe the morning before that. Time blurred when your body was empty. He reached the fence and stopped. Not because he wanted to. Because he couldn't take another step. His hands wrapped around the cold metal as he bent over, gasping. On the other side of the fence, a bell rang. Children poured out of the school building, backpacks bouncing, lunch bags swinging. The smell hit him next. Bread, fruit, something warm and sweet. Ethan swallowed hard. That was when he saw her. She stood still while everyone else rushed past, a small girl with tight braids and a red sweater that looked a size too big. She watched him with wide, cautious eyes, clutching her lunch bag to her chest. They stared at each other through the fence. "What are you looking at?" Ethan muttered, more to himself than her. The girl didn't answer. She glanced behind her, then back at him. Slowly, carefully, she walked closer. "You hungry?" she asked. Ethan scoffed. "What do you think?" She hesitated, then sat down on the concrete, cross-legged, right there by the fence. She opened her bag and pulled out a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. Ethan's stomach growled so loud he flinched. She tore the sandwich in half. "You can have this part," she said, sliding it through a gap in the fence. "It's peanut butter. I already ate the crust." Ethan stared at it like it might disappear. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I know." "Why are you doing it then?" She shrugged. "Because you look like you need it more than me." He grabbed the sandwich and devoured it in 3 bites, barely chewing. His eyes burned, and he hated that. When he looked up, she was smiling softly, like she'd just done something normal. "What's your name?" she asked. "Lucas," he said after a second. He'd learned not to give his real one. Names made things complicated. "I'm Naomi," she said. "You gonna be here tomorrow?" He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "Probably." She nodded, satisfied. "Okay." And just like that, she stood up and walked away. Lucas stared after her, confused in a way that felt dangerous. The next day, she came back. And the next. And the next. Rain soaked the pavement one afternoon, but Naomi still sat by the fence, her sweater darkened with water, her lunch bag tucked under her arm. "Your shoes are wet," Lucas said. "So are yours," she replied, passing him an apple this time. Winter crept in early. Naomi's hands turned red and chapped. Lucas started coughing, deep and ugly, his ribs aching with every breath. "You sound bad," she said one day. "I'm fine." "You're not." She disappeared for a moment and came back with a pair of gloves, too big for her, shoved through the fence. "My grandma says cold makes sickness worse," she said. "Put these on." Lucas shook his head. "You'll get in trouble." "She doesn't mind," Naomi said, even though her eyes flicked away when she said it. One afternoon, kids from the school stopped and stared. "Why you feeding him?" a boy sneered. "He's gross." Naomi stood up, fists clenched. "Leave him alone." "You gonna take him home too?" "Maybe I would if I could," she shot back. They laughed and walked off. Lucas swallowed. "You don't have to come anymore." Naomi sat back down. "Yes, I do." "Why?" She looked at him then, really looked. "Because if nobody comes, you disappear." That night, Lucas cried quietly behind a closed store, clutching the gloves to his chest. Weeks passed. Snow dusted the fence. Naomi's lunches got smaller. Half a sandwich. A piece of bread and a banana. "Did you eat?" Lucas asked one day. "Yeah," she lied too fast. He frowned but didn't push it. One morning, Lucas didn't wake up when the sun rose. His body burned, then shook, then burned again. He dragged himself to the fence anyway, vision swimming. Naomi gasped when she saw him. "You're sick." "I'll be okay." "You won't," she said, panic breaking through her calm. She ran. Lucas slid down against the fence, breath rattling in his chest. He thought about his mom's voice, how it used to sound before everything fell apart. He thought about sleep. Hands shook him gently. "Lucas. Lucas, wake up." Naomi was back, her grandmother beside her, a thin woman with sharp eyes and a coat that had seen better days. "This is the boy?" the woman asked. Naomi nodded. "He needs help." The grandmother knelt, pressing a cool hand to Lucas's forehead. "Lord," she whispered. "He's burning up." They didn't ask permission. They didn't look around. They lifted him carefully and took him home. Lucas woke up in a small room that smelled like soup and laundry soap. His head ached. Naomi sat beside the bed, her braids loose now. "You scared me," she said. "Sorry," he croaked. Her grandmother appeared in the doorway. "You're staying until you're better," she said firmly. "That's not a question." Lucas stayed 3 days. On the 4th morning, men came. Voices rose. Naomi cried. Lucas tried to stand and failed. By afternoon, he was gone. Back to shelters. Back to lines. Back to being invisible. The fence waited. Naomi came every day for a week. Then she stopped. Years passed. Ethan Cross stood in his penthouse kitchen, staring at a glass frame mounted on the wall. Inside it lay a frayed crimson thread, faded and worn. His phone buzzed. "You did it," Mark Ellison said on speaker. "The deal closed. 9 figures. You should be celebrating." Ethan didn't smile. "I know." Mark sighed. "You can't keep buying property around Harborview Primary. People are starting to ask questions." "Let them," Ethan said. "You're chasing a story from 20 years ago." Ethan touched the glass. "I'm chasing a promise." Silence stretched between them. "You ever think she forgot you?" Mark asked. Ethan's jaw tightened. "No. Because some things didn't fade. They waited." And somewhere, not far from the same fence, Naomi Brooks locked up the community office and wondered why, for the first time in years, her chest felt tight for no clear reason. Naomi Brooks hated meetings like this. Too many folded arms. Too many narrowed eyes. Too many people who had been disappointed before and were prepared to be disappointed again. She stood near the back of the crowded room at Riverside Outreach Hall, clipboard tucked under her arm, listening as voices overlapped. "They say development, but we know what that means. My rent already went up twice. They don't care about us." Naomi exhaled slowly and stepped forward. "Let's take turns," she said, firm but calm. "Everyone here deserves to be heard." The room quieted, not because they weren't angry, but because they trusted her. She had earned that trust over years of showing up, court dates, late-night calls, emergency housing runs, funerals she shouldn't have had to attend. A man near the front raised his hand. "Is he here?" Naomi frowned. "Who?" "The developer," someone else said. "The one buying up half the blocks near Harborview." Murmurs rippled. Naomi's stomach tightened. She hadn't expected him to come. Most of them never did. Then she saw him. He stood near the door, tall, composed, wearing a dark coat that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His posture was controlled, but his eyes were restless, scanning the room like he was searching for something, or someone. Their eyes met. Something sharp cut through Naomi's chest. She broke eye contact first, annoyed at herself. "Don't be ridiculous," she thought. "You don't know him." The moderator cleared his throat. "Mr. Cross has agreed to answer questions." Naomi stiffened. "Cross." The name echoed strangely in her head. A woman stood. "Are you planning to push us out?" Ethan stepped forward. His voice was steady. "No." Laughter, bitter and loud. "Everyone says that." "I know," Ethan said. "And I know my words don't mean much without action." Naomi raised her hand. The room shifted. People turned toward her. "Yes," the moderator said quickly. Naomi stepped into the aisle, heart pounding harder than it should have. "You've purchased properties within 2 miles of a public school," she said evenly. "Rents are rising. Families are scared. What guarantee do they have that you're not just another investor passing through?" Ethan stared at her. Not at her clipboard. Not at the crowd. At her. The room seemed to fade. Her voice. The cadence. The steadiness under pressure. His breath caught. "Naomi," he said. The room went silent. She blinked. "Do I know you?" Ethan swallowed. His hands clenched at his sides. "I think you do." Murmurs exploded. Naomi felt heat rush to her face. "Sir, if you're trying to distract from the question." "Chain-link fence," Ethan said softly. "Red sweater. Peanut butter sandwiches." Her clipboard slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. Her knees went weak. "No," she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, trembling now. You asked me if I was hungry. You fed me for 6 months. Her heart slammed so hard it hurt. That's not, her voice cracked. She stopped, pressed a hand to her chest. That's not funny. I know, he said. I know. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. His fingers shook as he unfolded it. A crimson thread. Worn. Frayed. Cut in half. Naomi's breath left her in a sob. She fumbled at her wrist, fingers clumsy, and pulled out a matching piece, faded but unmistakable. The room erupted. Oh my God. Is this real? Naomi couldn't hear them. All she could see was a boy behind a fence, shivering, smiling through cracked lips. Lucas, she whispered. Ethan's eyes filled. You remembered. I thought you disappeared, she said, voice breaking. I waited. I tried to come back, he said. They wouldn't let me. Tears streamed down her face now, unrestrained. She laughed shakily. You promised you'd find me. I did, he said. I never stopped. The moderator cleared his throat awkwardly. Maybe we should take a break. No one moved. Naomi wiped her face, suddenly aware of the room again. She straightened, forcing herself to breathe. We'll continue this conversation, she said to the crowd. But not like this. She turned to Ethan. Outside. They stepped into the cold evening air. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Naomi let out a shaky laugh. You're supposed to be imaginary. Ethan smiled sadly. You're supposed to be. She looked at him properly now. The clean lines. The exhaustion in his eyes. You're rich. He huffed. Apparently. Why are you here? She asked sharply. Really? Ethan hesitated. Because everything I built was meant to bring me back here. That's not an answer. It is, he said quietly. Just not a good one. She folded her arms. People are afraid. I know. And you don't get to walk in with a childhood story and erase that. I don't want to erase anything, Ethan said. I want to protect it. Naomi studied him. That's what they all say. I didn't come for profit, he said. I came for you. Her breath caught. Don't. I mean, he ran a hand through his hair. I came because this place saved my life. Because you did. Silence settled between them, heavy and fragile. Naomi finally spoke. Come with me. They walked 3 blocks to a row of aging buildings. See that one? She said. Single moms. Rent just jumped. That one? She pointed. 3 kids aging out of foster care next month. No plan. Ethan listened, jaw tight. This is what you're stepping into, Naomi said. You can't romanticize it. I'm not, he said. I lived it. She turned sharply. Then prove it. How? Stay, she said. Don't fund. Don't buy. Stay. Ethan nodded. Okay. She frowned. Just like that. I've waited 20 years, he said. I can wait a little longer. Days passed. Ethan showed up. He sat in cramped offices. Listened to caseworkers argue with landlords. Watched Naomi fight for clients with a fire that left him stunned. One evening, he found her slumped at her desk, staring at nothing. You okay? He asked. She shook her head. I'm tired. Eat, he said, setting a paper bag down. She opened it and froze. Peanut butter? He smiled gently. Habit. Her eyes burned. They worked late. Laughed softly. Remembered pieces of the past. You used to hum, Ethan said one night. Naomi blinked. You remember that? I remember everything, he said. One call came in near midnight. A 17-year-old boy. Eviction notice. Nowhere to go. Naomi grabbed her coat. Let's move. Ethan followed without hesitation. They sat with the boy until dawn. On the drive back, Naomi finally said it. If you're serious, we need structure. I have resources, Ethan said. And no desire to control. She studied him. You'd let me lead? Yes. Even if it costs you? Especially then. Naomi looked out the window. Then we try. Ethan smiled, heart pounding. The promise beyond the fence was no longer a memory. It was breathing again. The first backlash came faster than Naomi expected. An email landed in her inbox at 6:12 a.m. Community leaders questioned sudden developer involvement. By noon, A local blog had posted photos of Ethan entering the outreach center, his name bolded in the headline like an accusation. "He's playing everyone," one comment read. "This is how gentrification starts. Wake up." Naomi rubbed her temples and leaned back in her chair. The office buzzed around her, phones ringing, printers groaning, people arguing softly over limited resources. Ethan stood in the doorway, reading her face. "Bad." "Define bad," she said. He closed the door behind him. "I can step away." She looked up sharply. "No. I don't want to make this harder." "You don't get to disappear again," she said, immediately regretting the edge in her voice. Ethan absorbed it without flinching. "Then tell me what you need." Naomi exhaled. "I need you to understand that trust here is borrowed, not owned." "I know. And if people think I sold out?" "You didn't," he said firmly. "That won't stop them from saying it." A knock interrupted them. A volunteer poked her head in. "Naomi? The Johnson family's landlord moved the deadline up. They're panicking." Naomi stood. "I'll handle it." Ethan followed. He always did. They sat across from the landlord later that afternoon. The man's smile was tight. "Market rates," he said. "Nothing personal." Naomi leaned forward. "They've been here 12 years. Doesn't change the numbers." Ethan spoke calmly. "What would?" The landlord looked at him, recognizing him now. His eyes lit up. "Well, that depends." Naomi stiffened. Ethan didn't blink. "We're not playing that game." The landlord scoffed. "Then this meeting is over." Outside, Naomi paced. "You didn't have to jump in like that." "Yes, I did," Ethan said. "Because that's the game. Pressure. And now he'll push harder." Ethan nodded. "Then we push back smarter." That night, they sat on the floor of the center, papers spread around them. "You don't have to fund everything," Naomi said. "This can't be a one-man miracle." "I know," Ethan said. "That's why it won't be." They built slowly, carefully. A housing buffer fund. Legal partnerships. Emergency stipends tied to employment training. They named it the Crimson Thread Project. When the announcement went public, the response was split. Some praised it. Others doubted it. A reporter cornered Naomi outside the center. "Isn't this just a rebrand for a billionaire's conscience?" Naomi met the camera without blinking. "No. It's a safety net built by people who know what falling feels like." The next week nearly broke her. A foster youth relapsed. A funding partner backed out. Someone spray-painted "sell out" across the center's wall. Naomi stood staring at it in the early morning, arms wrapped around herself. Ethan came up behind her. "I'll have it cleaned." "That's not the point," she said quietly. He hesitated. "Talk to me." "They think I'm naive," she said. "Or worse. Bored." "You're neither. They don't know you like I do." Ethan swallowed. "Maybe they shouldn't have to." She turned. "What does that mean?" "It means this can't be about me," he said. "If my presence is poisoning the well." Naomi shook her head. "You're not leaving. You don't know that." She stepped closer. "I waited for you once. I'm not doing that again." His breath hitched. "I'm here," he said. "I promise." She laughed bitterly. "Careful. Promises are dangerous." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the crimson thread, now sealed in a small pendant. "I know," he said. "That's why I keep mine." Silence stretched. Then Naomi surprised herself by leaning into him. Just for a second. He didn't move. Didn't touch her. Just breathed. That night, she dreamed of the fence again. Only this time, the gate was open. The program's first Real win came quietly. A 19-year-old named Aaron signed a lease. When he held the keys, his hands shook. "They're mine?" he asked. Naomi smiled. "They're yours." Aaron looked at Ethan. "Thank you, sir." Ethan shook his head. "Thank her." More wins followed. A welding apprenticeship. A scholarship. A mother reunited with her kids. The blog post softened. Then turned curious. Then supportive. But success brought attention. And attention brought pressure. At a city council session, a councilman leaned into his mic. "Mr. Cross, are you positioning this initiative for political leverage?" Ethan answered evenly. "No. What's your endgame?" Ethan glanced at Naomi in the audience. "Sustainability." Afterward, Naomi pulled him aside. They are circling. I know. And if this becomes about power? I walk, Ethan said. She searched his face. Just like that. Yes. She believed him. That scared her. One evening, long past closing, Naomi sat alone, staring at an old photo of her grandmother. You'd like him, she whispered. A knock came at the door. Ethan stood there, holding 2 paper cups. Chamomile, he said. You looked like you needed it. She smiled faintly. You remember too much. I remember what matters. They sat on the steps outside. Naomi finally asked, why didn't you ever stop looking? Ethan stared ahead. Because when you're saved once, you spend the rest of your life trying to understand why. She nodded slowly. I didn't think it mattered that much. It did, he said. It still does. Her phone buzzed. An alert. Crimson Thread Project reaches 100 youth milestone. Naomi's eyes filled. We did this, she said. Ethan shook his head. You did. She looked at him then, really looked. Not the investor. Not the symbol. The boy behind the fence who never stopped hoping. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I, he said. She took his hand. This time, he squeezed back. The night the city honored the Crimson Thread Project, Naomi almost didn't go. She stood in front of her mirror, smoothing down a simple dark dress, her nerves buzzing in a way that had nothing to do with speeches or donors. You don't have to do this, she muttered to herself. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, I'm outside. No pressure. She exhaled and grabbed her coat. The gala was held in a renovated community hall, not flashy, not distant. Red accents lined the walls, subtle but intentional. Familiar faces filled the room. Former program participants. Volunteers. Caseworkers who rarely got thanked. Naomi spotted Aaron near the back, laughing with someone new. She smiled, chest tightening. Ethan joined her, offering his arm. You okay? Ask me again after, she said. He chuckled softly. Fair. When Naomi was called to the stage, the applause surprised her. She paused, hands gripping the podium. I used to believe kindness was quiet, she began. Something you did and moved on from. I know now it echoes. Sometimes for decades. Her gaze flicked to Ethan, just for a second. This work isn't charity, she continued. It's repair. The applause was long, sustained. Then the host smiled knowingly. And now, Mr. Cross. Ethan stepped up, heart pounding harder than any boardroom ever had. He hadn't planned this moment. Not like this. But promises had a way of demanding space. I was 10 years old, he began, voice steady despite the storm inside him, and I was invisible. The room quieted. I stood behind a fence, hungry, sick, and certain no one saw me. He paused. Then someone did. Naomi's breath caught. She didn't ask my name. She didn't expect anything back. She just shared what little she had. His voice softened. That act didn't just feed me. It gave me a future. He reached into his pocket. Naomi's heart stopped. He knelt. Gasps rippled through the room. Naomi Brooks, Ethan said, looking up at her, eyes shining. You saved my life before I even knew how to ask for help. You gave me hope before I understood its value. I don't want to honor that promise alone anymore. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a deep red stone catching the light. Will you marry me? He asked. Not because of who we were, but because of who we choose to be now. For a moment, Naomi couldn't move. Then she laughed through her tears. You always were dramatic. The room held its breath. Yes, she said. Yes, I will. The applause was thunderous. People stood. Some cried openly. Ethan rose, pulling her into an embrace that felt like 22 years collapsing into a single heartbeat. Months later, the fence still stood. But it looked different now. Fresh paint. A small plaque. Red ribbons tied gently along the metal. Naomi walked slowly toward it, hand resting on her growing belly, Ethan beside her. You nervous? He asked. About everything, she replied. All the time. They stopped where it had all begun. The ceremony was small. Intentional. The air crisp, the sky clear. When Naomi spoke her vows, her voice didn't shake. You taught me that promises matter, she said to Ethan. Not because they are grand, but because they are kept. When Ethan spoke, he didn't look away from her once. I will spend my life making sure the world is gentler than it was to us, he said. Together. After the ceremony, as laughter filled the schoolyard, Naomi noticed movement near the fence. A small girl stood there, clutching a worn backpack. Naomi's heart stuttered. She walked over slowly and knelt. "Hey," she said gently. "You okay?" The girl hesitated. "I'm hungry." Naomi opened her bag and pulled out a sandwich. "Here," she said, smiling. "You can have half." The girl's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" Ethan watched from a distance, throat tight. Somewhere, a promise was being born again. As the sun dipped lower, the camera would pull back, not from the celebration, but from the fence. From the red ribbons fluttering softly in the breeze. And a quiet message would linger. Kindness doesn't end. It waits. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that small acts matter more than we realize, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe for more stories that explore hope, resilience, and the power of human connection, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice is part of this story too. Because somewhere, right now, someone is standing behind a fence. And what you do next might change everything.